I shall now make a statement in my capacity as Foreign Minister of the People's Republic of China. Mr. Secretary General, colleagues, I'd like to thank Secretary General Antonio Guterres and Special Coordinator Tor Wennesland for your briefings. Since the outbreak of the latest Palestinian-Israeli conflict, China has all along devoted its efforts to realizing peace and saving lives. President Xi Jinping has stated China's principled position on the current situation on a number of occasions. He called for an immediate ceasefire and ending the fighting, preventing the expansion of the conflict, and ensuring that the humanitarian corridors are safe and unimpeded. He stressed that the fundamental way out lies in the two-state solution and working toward a comprehensive, just, and lasting settlement of the Palestinian question at an early date. As the rotating president of the Security Council this month, China has all along taken the Palestinian-Israeli conflict as the most urgent agenda. This month, the Security Council adopted Resolution 2712, beginning initial steps toward a ceasefire. Soon after the adoption of the resolution under the mediation of such countries as Qatar and Egypt, relevant parties agreed to and realized the release of some persons held captive and several days of pause. Although all this have not come at the earliest time, they bear important significance. This also shows that dialogue and negotiation is the best way to save lives and the fundamental way to settle disagreements. Colleagues, the ongoing Palestinian-Israeli conflict has led to an enormous loss of innocent lives and an unprecedented humanitarian disaster. Its spillover effects are still emerging. War tests humanity's conscience and justice, and peace appeals to our rationality and wisdom. Standing at the crossroads of war and peace, the international community must take more active steps to save lives and restore peace. First, we should work for a comprehensive and lasting ceasefire with the greatest urgency. There is no safe area under gunfire, and letting the fighting drag on would only bring more death and damage. There is no firewall in Gaza either, and resumed fighting would only most likely turn into a calamity that devours the whole region. What happened between Palestine and Israel over the decades show, time and again, that resorting to military means is definitely not a way out, and addressing violence with violence will only exacerbate hatred and confrontation and lead to a ceaseless, vicious cycle. China strongly hopes that the past days of pause will not be a hiatus before a new round of offensive, but rather the beginning of further diplomatic efforts for a comprehensive and lasting ceasefire. China appeals to the international community to take a comprehensive and lasting ceasefire as an overriding priority. And we appeal to all parties to pool all efforts to achieve the common goal of ending the fighting in Gaza. Second, we should protect civilians with more practical and robust action. In armed conflict, protection of civilians is a red line in international law that cannot be crossed. Any violence or attack against civilians is unacceptable, and any action that violates international law, and particularly international humanitarian law, should be condemned. China reiterates our opposition to the collective punishment of people in Gaza, and our opposition to the forced transfer targeting Palestinian civilians. In the same vein, all those held captive should be released. Easing the humanitarian crisis in Gaza is most pressing. It is imperative to fully deliver on the Security Council's Resolution 2712, clear the obstacles hindering the access of sufficient humanitarian supplies, and create conditions for humanitarian agencies to carry out their work safely. Relying only on the Rafah crossing to transport humanitarian supplies to Gaza is far from enough. More assistance corridors to Gaza should be opened, and the United Nations should play a greater role in monitoring and coordinating humanitarian efforts in Gaza. Since the conflict broke out, China has provided to the Palestinian National Authority and the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees in the Near East cash assistance, respectively, and we have provided to Gaza food, medicine, and other emergency humanitarian supplies. I'd like to announce that the Chinese government will provide to Gaza another batch of emergency humanitarian supplies. Third, we should revitalize the political prospects of the two-state solution with stronger determination. Israel has long established an independent state, and the Jews are no longer without a home. But the right of the Palestinian people to statehood, their right to existence, and their right of return have long been ignored. This is the crux of the repeated turbulence in the Palestinian-Israeli situation. Fairness and justice on the Palestinian question lies in the two-state solution. This is irreplaceable. Only the true and comprehensive implementation of the two-state solution can restore peace to the Middle East, realize peaceful coexistence between the two states of Palestine and Israel, and achieve common development of the Arabs and Jews. China calls for ramping up international and regional diplomatic efforts, reshaping credible multilateral processes, revitalizing the political prospects of the two-state solution, and restarting direct negotiations between Palestine and Israel. We advocate holding a more broad-based, large-scale, and effective international peace conference, and we support Palestine in becoming a full member of the United Nations. No solution to the current crisis should go against the two-state solution, or violate norms of international law or relevant UN resolutions. Any arrangement concerning the future of Palestine should fully reflect the will of the Palestinian people and accommodate the legitimate concerns of countries in the region. Fourth, we should work for responsible and meaningful action taken by the Security Council. The Charter of the United Nations confers on the Security Council primary responsibility for the maintenance of international peace and security. The Security Council should shoulder its responsibility on major issues of war and peace and life and death. It should heed the calls of Arab and Islamic countries and the international community, and in light of the development on the ground, take further action promptly. China has submitted our position paper on resolving the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, laying out principles and positions of the international community in 5 areas, namely implementing a comprehensive ceasefire and ending the fighting, protecting civilians effectively, ensuring humanitarian assistance, enhancing diplomatic mediation, and seeking political settlement through implementing the two-state solution. And China will continue to strengthen coordination and pool consensus with relevant parties to see that the Security Council assumes its due responsibilities of performing duties for peace and speaking up for justice. Colleagues, today we are joined by many high-level delegates from Arab and Islamic countries. Previously, they visited multiple countries as a delegation of 4 ministers, and I exchanged views with them in depth in Beijing. Their mediation efforts demonstrate a strong desire to end the fighting in Gaza and achieve peace in the Middle East. And today's meeting carries the keen expectation of Arab and Islamic countries for the United Nations and its Security Council. I hope you will pool your insight and answer our common question and contribute your part to realizing a ceasefire and ending the fighting at an early date, easing the humanitarian crisis, achieving peaceful coexistence between Palestine and Israel, and realizing lasting stability and security in the Middle East. Thank you.